that I don't think the combine matters. The tape says it all.
Yeah, you're right. It's like, what more were you looking to see?
Exactly right. Off combine, and let's move on with life. Yo, what's up? It's Chris Sims Unbuttoned, and Ahmed Fareed is not here today, okay? So shed your tears now and get him out of the way, because Connor Rogers is here today.
That's right, buddy.
What's up, buddy? How you doing?
I'm good,
We
man.
got a good one going on today, and of course, don't believe everything you hear there. I am a believer in the combine.
Yes.
There's
Very
a lot
clearly.
of positive
Yes.
in the combine, but it's not the end-all, be-all. And, of course, we do have some guys in this draft class, as always, where combine open your eyes up to some of it. And then some of it you go, damn, he's nothing like the combine numbers, and he's not nearly that explosive. So it's a little all over the map that way. But either way, we got a good one today. O-line, the big boys.
The big boys.
The space eaters. We got some people, tackles, guards, interior. We're going to hit it all there. Connor's got his list. I got my list. We'll break it down, and we go from there. But from there, I hand the keys to you to let you host this wonderful show, Mr. Rogers.
I mean, I think people would come for my head if I didn't start off the pod.
Oh, yes.
Revisiting the hurricane you created at the top of the week. It feels like people have been waiting for it. Like, you were kind of chill on the quarterbacks. I don't think anything was shocking there with the quarterbacks.
Well,
corner.
yeah, the Hendon Hooker thing, I feel like. And
now he's probably going in the first round.
Well, I mean,
so.
it does.
It's like, all right.
Yep. So that one. But you're right. This may be the first, I don't know, or negative shockwave as far as if you're me concerned and what you see on social media and all that. I get that. I guess I'm kind of good for that every year. I'm usually have one or two that I just see a little differently maybe than the rest or the public or whoever else.
And I think it's funny to me, Chris, like this time of year everybody reacts like, how could you think that? And then if you really did this exercise 3 years later, every single year and looked back, I mean, there's top 5 picks that just don't work out.
There's guys like this all year.
Every single year. The
I got shit on like
top
this.
guys.
Yes. I got shit on. We were talking before the pod, just a little, right? I got shit on 3 years ago for Jeff Okudah. That's slam dunk. He's the best corner there is. He was number 3 on my rankings. How could that be? How? I mean, Trey Lance was my 6th quarterback. How's that look? Justin Fields. There's a reason they were talking about trading him this year. But people were telling me I was stupid to have Mac Jones or anybody in front of them. There's always that, right? And, again, there's some that certainly other ones where I've been wrong and high on guys that didn't work out. I get it. But it always seems to be the top ones that are the triggers, right, where – this has been fed to the people, and it's like this was a staple at the top of the draft, and maybe he still is. I'm not saying I'm right here. I don't know, but I certainly don't see it, and we can start the conversation there, Connor Rogers.
I think that's it, is that, when you look, and here's Sims's top 5 edge pass rushers, and the one that we're talking about is Will Anderson being at number 5 and being in his own tier there at tier 3. Now, here's the thing. I think it's part of it is people are told for 2 years how great a player is.
Sure.
And there's no denying he was a great college football player.
Sure.
And there also is part of it, man, when you dive into this edge class, you go, this is a good group.
Right.
Like, there's a lot of first-rounders here.
Right.
There's a lot of guys that are freaks.
Definitely. There's guys in the second round that I went, and I said it on the Monday podcast, I said there's some guys in the second round as pure pass rushers that I like their potential better than Will Anderson. Now, again, I don't know if I'm right, but that's just the way I felt, and you know me. I mean, I do my work. I'm studying.
Absolutely.
But, yeah, it's go ahead. I didn't mean to cut you off
No,
there.
you're good.
Yeah,
it's just it's funny to me, and also there's a thought, like, I released my first mock draft for NBC this week since I've been here, and at number 3, and I didn't do trades.
Yeah.
I think Arizona wants to trade that pick. We'll see if they could do it.
Yeah, right.
If they get stuck there, that defense just needs everything.
Yeah.
I had them taking Tyree Wilson.
Yeah.
I did. And I've heard this since before the combine that his length and his power, the way it should translate, there are teams that have him as the top defensive player on the board. So when these things don't get out early, people are shocked by them.
Right.
But this is a situation for the draft. Like, Will Anderson's not guaranteed to be the first non-quarterback drafted. And
I
love
will
him, but he's not guaranteed to be the first non-quarterback.
I will kiss my own ass if he's the first non-quarterback drafted. That's how strongly I feel about it. And that's where, That's Pete's saying it's not possible. I have seen there are some flexible people out there that can kiss their own ass. All right, I think they can, but it's very rare. And
some of these edge rushers might be able to.
With my lower back issues, I definitely can't. Just trying to touch my toes every now and then. But all right, so like you have your mock draft. you got them taking Tyree Wilson number 3, right? Why? Well, if Will Anderson's so the number 1 pick for everybody, then why isn't he going at that same position at number 3 to the Arizona Cardinals? I'm not trying to be a jerk.
No, I get it.
I'm questioning everybody
I think it's
out
fair.
there. You know what I mean?
I think for teams, they are just obsessed with length.
Yeah.
And it's not like this is random. They have a threshold of what translates. And
Right.
we're going to have this conversation today. There
Yeah.
are a lot of teams that will not play a college offensive tackle
Sure.
at NFL offensive tackle if his
Yeah.
arms are shorter than 33 inches.
Yeah, sure.
It's just not.
Right.
And people will go, oh, well, how do you know? And look at Rashawn Slater. Well, how about Jonah Williams?
Yeah.
Right? Like, there's a lot of examples of it not working out.
Exactly right. There's
So-
more. Yeah, there's a reason there's a science there. It's
Yes.
usually there's a science because they have 100 examples of, wait, when it's over 33, it's good. And there's only like 2 or 3 every now and then that are under 33 that are good. So that's why they go
You're
with these.
playing the numbers with thresholds.
Definitely
And
are.
I think with edge pass rush, it comes to mind. Now, Micah Parsons is a guy, shorter arms,
Sure.
but he's a total freak show. The outliers
Right.
are freak shows.
Right.
So I think with Tyree Wilson, it's that obsession with size, strength, length, a little bit of – some coaches look at it like this. They go, well, he doesn't really know what he's doing, right? He's just running 100 miles an hour and it's still working.
Exactly.
Imagine if we
I think
actually
that's
coached him.
100%. See, that's what I think's I think that's a
Yes,
positive.
and that's a big O-line thing we're going to talk about
Yes,
today. 'Cause
definitely
the
is,
technique
too.
in this class
is all over the
God, just
I know.
hands going everywhere.
I know.
So, but
got
we'll-
people
we'll-
karaokeing doing
Yeah,
pass rush,
exactly.
pass blocking.
So we'll stay with the edge group here. I really think that's what it is, Chris. And that might not be for everybody. Some teams will like the floor
Right.
of a Will Anderson.
Sure.
Some teams will like the
love
ceiling.
the floor.
Sure.
I don't love the ceiling.
Yeah. And
He's safe.
he is safe.
But that's
He'll be
why
a good
I don't
NFL
think
player.
Exactly.
And you still think he's a first rounder. I just want to
Yes,
clarify.
yes.
Okay.
See, that's why that's
Yeah.
why I hate
You didn't
this.
call him an undrafted free agent.
No, that's why I hate this whole thing too, because I tried to make it clear, and even with Morgan, who's sitting here and does such a great job with our social media, she was trying to clip out stuff yesterday, and even with her, we were like, make it clear that I do like the guy. He's a first-round pick. You know, but it just the negativity takes over, or the backlash from how dare you not have him where we all thought he should be. All right, so again, to your point there, too, you even said another thing that jumped out to me, the outlier part of it, right? See, there's not the outlier part of it with him either, too, to justify the physical freak to then overcome some of the things that you talked about that are questions. And that's what I question. You know, again, it's a good football player. I don't want that to be taken to or discredited.
Sure.
But I don't see elite level length to start off.
Yep.
Elite level, get off the ball. Right.
And the numbers back you up. I mean, 73rd percentile 10-yard.
Right.
Like the top guys, even like Jermaine Johnson last year, they're in like the 90s in the percentile.
That's and if you're not, so then if you're not that, then you better have something else that's really freaky to go along with it, right? Like I've seen people say, well, Khalil Mack had a 1.610, right? And I'm going to go, yeah, but Khalil Mack was throwing people around with one arm like they were toys. And you were like, well, okay, he's not the fastest in the world, but holy shit, he's so strong, it's unbelievable. So that kind of makes up for it, right? So that's where I question it too. Not that you have to be the fastest, but you have to have something else to bring to the table there.
You want a calling card.
And then I want a calling card.
Yeah.
That's a great way to put it. He's got a lot of good, but there's no calling card. And to me, that does not say top 10. We'll see. I understand I'm in the minority. And again, I just want to make this clear too. And anybody that listens to the podcast always knows I say this. I'm rooting for the kid. I hope he proves me wrong.
Oh, great dude.
I met the
Great
kid.
dude.
He is
Yes.
awesome. It's the worst part about my job is I got to meet a kid like that. I love meeting him. I talked so highly about his personality. And then I got to kind of be the hater, or I get portrayed as the hater of him, and I don't like that, but that's just the way the business is right now.
So we had a good question from Joey Match 13.
Yeah.
He said, do you have a favorite team that you rooted for as a kid that you want Will Anderson to drop to?
Let's see. A favorite team that I rooted for as a kid. Well, my favorite team is the Giants, and I rooted for them as a lot as a kid, right? And I would love for him to fall to them.
25 is
at the
pretty
20s.
good value.
That would be awesome.
Yes.
And I'm not going to lie here, Joey Match 13. I mean, I wrote 20 to 32 when I watched him down. That's what I wrote. And again, I understand that I'm probably in the minority of that. This will be here's the other part that I do find interesting, right? I have my friends in the NFL and all that. And I like to have conversations after the fact a little bit when I've watched the guys, and then I get on a phone with a few of them and talk about it, right?
Yeah. Did you see what I see, or just kind of poke thoughts? Yeah,
exactly, right. And, like I was low on Kayvon Thibodeau last year. And I had people that agreed with me, but I also had with some of those people, they do, yeah, but there's people in our building that really like him, right? What I told Pete, Demolitis, is that, like, so far, the ones I have talked to or even have reached out to me have given me the inkling that the building is underwhelmed by Will Anderson. And again, I don't know if that's right, and that doesn't mean it's everybody, right? I mean, it's everybody's got their own flavor or what they're looking for or whatever else there. So that's where I found it interesting. Last year I knew there was a chance. I was like, oh man, somebody might like Kayvon Thibodeau. It's kind of split some part of the leagues here. This one, I don't know. I mean, again, this is the first time I had these conversations and text with some people, but I got a different feel than I got last year from Thibodeau. I got a little bit more of like, oh yeah, we weren't as thrilled as we thought we were going to be when we watched him either. So we'll see where that goes. And again, that's not a whole league-wide thing. It's just a group of people that I talk to, from a mishmash of different teams.
So another one from Jordan T. Silvera.
Yeah.
He said, Chris, this reeks of you watching 22 film exclusively and disregarding the 2021 film. The difference is stellar compared to very good.
Yeah, I mean, I hear that, like, and I'm not going to tell you and lie that I went deep dive 21.
Yeah.
I did not. When I went to 21, I kind of just watched like a POA tape.
Yeah, sure.
All right. So I saw, the goods and the negatives and all that. When I went to 22, this is my big thing this year is I'm only watching games. I'm done like, oh, I'm going to just watch, sacks or pass rushes. Right. I'm just watching that. And listen, I'm not big into, I want to look at the film 2 years ago. I'm not into that. I'm not. I want to look at the most recent evidence. This is the most recent of what the guy is. And so what are you telling me there, Jordan T. Silveria, that he got worse in a year? Well, that doesn't make me feel better. Let me draft the guy who got worse last year as the number one pick in the draft. Like, right? This is, again, some people have to hear what they're saying a little with this. I don't mean to get emotional, but I hear people talk sometimes and say things, and I go, what you just said doesn't sound like a number one pick. Oh, he's not the most explosive around the edge. We've seen a lot more explosive. And that's where I just want to go, well, okay, but I don't know. It's a great conversation.
Well, I think where his point works, and it doesn't for this specific, is if a guy was hurt in his final year.
Exactly, sure.
Like a Cedric Tillman at wide receiver, a guy that came back early from surgery.
Gotcha.
Will Anderson, I mean, he played the whole year. Maybe there is stuff we don't know there.
Maybe. I haven't heard that. And
the balance of going back to film is injury related. And then you have to double check with whoever you want to talk to, teams that know medical information. Is he clear from that injury from the last year, or is this a problem going forward?
And again, I don't do that. That's not what I do. Yep. I go on film,
watch the tape, and
I go. That's all I can do. I can't. I don't know. Some teams aren't going to tell you. Some teams might go, oh, no, it's perfect bill of health. Another team will go, we had him down as a little shoulder issue. Yeah. So, I'll take that into account as we continue to talk about this guy and have that conversation if it comes up, certainly. But then again, too, with guys like with injuries, you can see it, too. Like even with Cedric Tillman, you could see parts of him like, he's not as quite comfortable cutting off his foot or doing things like that. There's nothing there that gave me an inkling to go, he wasn't healthy,
going through something,
or he's laboring or something there. So, again, we'll see. But a good football player, definitely. I just did not. I was a little shocked, or lack of shock, that I was expecting to see, more of a physical freak than I did with Will Anderson.
I think this conversation, and I love Will Anderson, but I think this conversation kind of highlights how important it is for Arizona to maybe get out of this pick. I don't know if this is a draft where, especially what's happened with Jalen Carter, that you need to be the first team in line for the best non-quarterback.
Yeah, I hear you.
Especially when you need everything.
Right. No, I know.
They need everything.
Yeah, I get you. They got a lot of holes. There's definitely that. But if they're stuck there, I can say without equivocation, which I'm not even sure if I use that word right or even really know the meaning, but it sounded like it was the proper way to use it. I'm going with it. Okay. If I am stuck at 3, I'm going Tyree Wilson if I'm them. I am.
I had a laugh.
Maybe it would have been Jalen Carter. I know there's some off the field stuff there too, and I haven't fully studied Jalen Carter yet. That starts today actually for me. But yeah, I am a little bit. I guess maybe higher on Tyree Wilson than the draft community. I look at it and go, I see like if these quarterbacks weren't there, I see a guy that could be a number 1 pick of the draft and like kind of a no-brainer. So we'll see where that goes. But your point with the Cardinals trading down, I think, is very real, and it's the sense I get too, Connor.
I had a laugh yesterday. I saw a certain sports book in the morning had Tyree Wilson first defensive player selected plus 750, like a Hail Mary long shot.
Right.
Before I went to bed, I checked. It moved to plus 500. That might have been
the Sims effect?
I really do believe it was the Sims effect because that is a massive movement in the 12-hour span.
Thank you.
Just absolutely ridiculous. Let's get to what the people have been waiting for today, and that's, of course, the O-line rankings. And as we like to do, before we even touch on any of the rankings, we talk about a little bit of scouting, behind the curtain, what you look for, what matters. This is such an interesting group, Chris, because, and it's one that's taken me the longest to really get down because tackle, guard play, and center play are just totally different.
Definitely.
You're projecting some guys from smaller programs that they had to play tackle because they're the best athlete in their room.
Right. But there's no way they can do that in the
NFL.
No way. Right.
There's just so many different things to break down here. So when you start with offensive line prospects, really, how does your checklist go?
Yeah, I think, the first thing, and I guess specifically to tackles, and we're going to get in that conversation, them, I would go more of length, anchor, and feet are the most important things to me, right? And probably length, probably in that order, honestly.
Okay.
Right? Maybe anchor, then length. Those are the top 2 things. Feet is third for me, right? I will say, with feet, I have learned from the days of, the Cedric Ogbuehi's and the super athletic tackles that became popular for a while. And then we got in the Jermaine Ifedi's, and everybody was like a little bit like, oh, wait, there's some problems with these guys in the NFL, right? To where I am now feet, hey, we'd like it, but
might not be number 1.
It's not number 1.
Yeah.
Orlando Brown Jr.,
oh man,
Ronnie Stanley, those bigger guys like that, they're not the quickest feet in the world. They have good feet, but then they have all the other stuff that's stellar. And then maybe to make up for that lack of the quickest feet in the world, they have the length that, oh, wait, I just push you by now. Even though my feet weren't in the great position, I'm so big and long that it looked like you were going to turn the corner, but I pushed you by the quarterback, and now you're gone and out of the play. And so that's where I probably adjusted my thought a little bit in that department.
So that's tackle.
That's tackle. Now
guard's a different beast.
Guard's a different beast. Guard, I want stout. I want
big ass.
I want big ass. I want straight ahead explosion. I want more, ability to block in space, get to the second level, pulling guards. And I want to be able to see what I would say the hips rolling through.
Absolutely.
Right? When you see the drill for everybody out there, right? You see linemen sometimes, they're on their knees, and then they punch and put their hips through and get into that, 45-degree angle that their body gets in. It's very important. You look at the good guards in football, they can be in that 3-down position. They hit you, and they can extend their body into a spot of like you're pushing a sled or something like that. Instead, they're pushing humans, and that usually lends itself. So that's more of what I'm looking for there is that kind of guy. Anchor's not quite as important because you got people around you and you're protected. You're not always in a single spot that way.
Yeah, you're not playing on an island.
Exactly
what
right.
They like to
exactly
say.
right.
Yep.
Yeah. So I think that's probably more of what the differences there in guard and tackle.
And the guys the guards go up against just don't have that runway to convert speed to power.
Exactly right.
So they're not playing a wide 9 or out on a 7. So the alignments is what we're talking about. And that matters so much.
Right.
And like you said, unlocking your hips is a huge part of it.
Huge part.
I feel like it's one, and correct me if I'm wrong, you either got it or you don't. It's very hard to get to the next level and go, oh, he's now playing with more bend and unlocking his hips.
Definitely.
Not playing over his toes,
Right.
not ducking his head. That aspect of it is not often developed too well.
You're exactly right. Those are things that are just like part of the natural human athlete. And we got a tackle that we're going to talk about here in the top 5 who I hate his hips. Like, I have issues about his hips. But he's big, and he's got good feet, and he's got a pretty good anchor, and he's a tackle, and there's not many humans on earth like him. So he's still willing to be a franchise left tackle, even though, I don't love his ability to block people in space or move side to side or dig people out in the running game or anything like that. But, there's a difference there. And the tackle has to see different types of animals come off the edge. I'm saying that with the most respectful way. Where, you 1 week it's Micah Parsons, and holy shit, he's so fast. And then the next week, it's they're playing Chris Jones at DN today, or they're playing DeForest Buckner at DN, and it's a 295-pound guy that it's not about speed, and he's just going to try to overpower you all the time.
Or Khalil Mack's long arm.
Or Khalil Mack's long arm, right. Yeah. So you have to have a little more versatility in who you can block at tackle and guard. For the most part, other than some third downs, you're going to see a big guy who can get off the ball and then is going to try to overpower you. And can you be big and stout and hold your ground like right away with that instant contact against a big body? That's the differences there.
What about center?
Yeah.
Because center fascinates me because a lot of these guards at some point have played center in college or they get to an all-star event and staffs work them out, snapping the ball in center.
Right.
What makes that transition to center, and what do you really need as a center?
I think center, still a lot of the guard qualities. I think the center and the best centers are like the twitchiest O-linemen on the group, the most athletic guys, really.
Kelsey,
exactly.
Yeah.
Creed Humphrey,
my goodness.
You can they can put their bodies in awkward positions, and then again, just think about when I say quick or twitchy or whatever, they have to snap a ball and then block some freaky guy who's incredibly explosive and big. Like, I always joke, I've told this story here before, you maybe have heard me say it before. I used to be like in practice and like underneath John Wade, my hand in his swamp ass, right? And going, is he really going to be able to snap the ball and block Warren Sapp here at the same time? Like, is he really going to be able to do this? Because it just looks like Warren's about to him up,
and he has no time.
It's gonna this play up, and I'm gonna break my hand trying to get the snap, and all these issues. I would think that all the time, but that's those guys. They are incredibly strong in those awkward positions. Their hips, like you're talking about, the bend, all those things. Centers are usually extremely natural in those positions and very twitchy compared to the rest of the O-line.
And I think the balance it requires to play center with how much you're asked to climb and pull these days is insanity.
Exactly.
I mean, you can't just lunge at a DB and he's going to go out of the way. Like, you really need to have that balance at the next level.
And you're getting attacked on the side, and you're trying, you're
the reach blocks.
Exactly. There is more. The balance is definitely a thing. And like you're talking about too, snapping a ball. Oh, let me double the defensive tackle with the guard, and now, he knocked me, but I still got to get up to the second level and cut off the backside linebacker here. And let me do that, and I'm a little off kilter, but I caught my balance, and now I'm back on balance and ready to adjust to this guy in the space. So it's probably a more high level all around athlete you want to have at center.
Are they often the smartest guy on the offensive line?
Almost always.
Probably by a good margin, I would think.
Almost
right?
always.
Yeah.
And usually, the quickest witted.
Okay.
And also usually like one of the smaller guys, but like the
chippy.
feistiest.
Yeah, they're chippiest.
They're
without
chippy.
a doubt.
Right. Even
some of these guys really do.
No doubt.
Yeah.
No doubt.
Can't wait to get to it.
They're like the guy where like the big left tackle, even though he can kick the shit out of everybody on the team, he kind of like doesn't want to mess with the center because he's like, damn, he's my leader. He's an alpha. And I don't know. It might be bad for me to fight him because he actually might win. I'm not sure if I want to mess with that guy.
Yeah, like the Ryan Jensens of the
exactly.
world. After every snap, he's just going.
They enjoy ripping your head off and being that guy. They're the attitude setters a lot of the time for the rest of the offensive line. They really are. They are the ones that are, hey, let's get in here and watch film, guys. Hey, we got to, we played like shit last week. We got to be better this week. That's usually the center who does that.
So before we get into this class, let's take a brief look at last year's offensive line class. Obviously, a lot of first-round picks drafted on the offensive line, and early. I mean, we had 3 go in the top 10. That was the 9 offensive line taken overall in round 1. That's the most since 2013.
Yeah.
And Chris, I know you watched all of these guys throughout their rookie seasons. I mean, a lot of them, not all, but a lot of them made significant progress as the year went on. Especially like poor Ike Ekwonu gets Myles Garrett out of the gate.
Yeah, right.
And then everybody's like, oh, he looks awful. And then he was great the rest of the season.
He really was.
Yeah.
I mean, to the point where I was coming on TV a little at the end of the year going, man, okay, I wasn't sure if Icky was going to be the guy or not, but he's starting to look like the guy.
Yep.
Right? Evan Neal, he struggled at first. He came along as the year went along. Went along. Same with Charles Cross. They're not perfect there, but I think you see a lot of the positives. Zion Johnson, of course, was very good. Penning had the injury.
Yep.
Tyler Smith was awesome, and especially the guy that was kind of like, I wasn't sure if he was going to be a guard or a tackle. I really thought he was going to be a guard.
Yep.
But the Tyron Smith injury, I think, forced him into the tackle position. He did a great job there. Linderbaum, of course, what he is, freaky athletic, and showed that he was worthy of that pick. And then really the most controversial pick.
Absolutely.
Right? But to me, again, I tried to stick up for the Patriots at the time. He was the next guy on the group. It was a weird year that there was 8 first-round offensive linemen, right? And, I know there were some other guys in the running in the second round, but I think if you were looking for the next good guard in the draft, it was Cole Strange, and he does do some good things. He's got to get a little stronger. But, man, he's a good athlete, and he's made for guard in the NFL.
So this year you broke up your rankings, offensive tackle rankings, and then interior offensive linemen, which obviously can include both guards and centers, as well as if you don't hear a guy's name in the tackle group, there's a chance he's converting.
Definitely.
And I did the same thing. There's actually, I feel like, more guys than ever that I just he's a guard at the next level.
Exactly right.
And you feel great about them in that spot, but you just have to be honest and say this is going to be a transition here. So we're going to start with tackle.
Cool.
And your number one tackle gets a tier all by himself.
I'm giving him by himself here.
All by himself.
Yep.
And I think the best part is he has played left tackle in college, but his final year in college, he played right tackle.
Right.
And he's your number one guy, and that is.
Yes, it is Darnell Wright from Tennessee. Right. And I'm interested to hear what you have to say about him here too. But one, I'm again, anybody that knows me, I'm a little bit of a lover of the big guy at this position. I love, this is like, length is not super long as compared to what we've seen some tackles and the elite tackles in football have, but the feet are good and they're not greasy good, but it's the power and strength that I'm a believer in. That's what I love. There's 2 things that I love about Darnell Wright. You're not going to win the power rush against him. Speed to power.
Can't get through him.
You're not going to get through him. Even when one of the last lines I wrote about the guy, even when he loses, he wins, right? And what I mean by that is every now and then somebody will get the edge on him and you go, oh, Mo, he's going to let somebody else. And he somehow gets him to the ground or has some quick move that gets him out of trouble or whatever. But I loved his anchor, okay? And then I loved, out of all the tackles, I think he was the best at just overpowering people in the run game and digging people out. Oh, you're in front of me, I'm going to dig you out, mano-y-mano here, and I'm going to move you backwards. So that's where I like Darnell Wright, and that's why he's my number one tackle.
So, Sims, what stood out with me for him is I don't think anybody is more battle-tested because he's got tape against Will Anderson.
Yes, he does.
And he's got tape against Brian Brzee.
Right.
And I thought he came out on top in both those battles.
In both of them, definitely.
In both those battles. A couple reps against Brzee where he put him in the ground.
Dominated him.
Absolutely dominated him. I just wrote, he's a hulking right tackle. I do think he's a right tackle at the next level.
Yeah.
Do you? I don't think he's flipping back to left.
Well, I think he could do it.
Sure.
I don't have an issue either way here with him, And again, I think I'm going a little bit, and I've been in the camp of like left tackle, right tackle. I think we're getting to the point where the only difference is it's a blind side for the quarterback. It's Von Miller lines up on both sides. It doesn't matter anymore, right? So I definitely think he can make left tackle, but from, our traditional thoughts of right tackle and what that's supposed to be, he fits that mold more than your traditional left tackle.
I think the most important thing with him, and we've seen a good trajectory, he was heavier during the season, his weight. He got it down for the Senior Bowl in the 340s. He comes in the Combine in the 330s.
Yes.
That's the right trajectory. This is not a guy I think you want, just because endurance reasons. There was a couple games I watched where early on, just devouring people. And I don't think it's lack of care or focus. I think he was just tired in some games because he's carrying
a big body.
350 to 360 pounds.
Sure.
So he got that weight down for the draft process. If he goes into training camp with that weight down, I'm with you that the ceiling is really, really high. He just has to dial in that conditioning focus.
Yeah, I get that. And I think that'll help, too, with some of the things that, a little bit better quick feet and things like that. That's where the weight will come in handy. But again, like I said, I learned a little bit with the Orlando Brown Jr. I'm missing somebody else, Tristan Wirfs.
Sure.
Right? He was another one where I was like, I don't know. His feet bother me. I think they're a little too slow for tackle in the NFL.
A lot of people thought that. People thought he'd play guard.
I know.
Yeah.
And I was one of those. But it's him, and I'm missing somebody else in that conversation too, where I've gone and corrected my thinking to go, it's not right. The feet are quick enough that nobody is totally a mismatch there. It's not perfect to what you want, but it's the other things that go along with it that save them in that area. And also, those are really important areas as well, as far as, dominating the run game or not getting run over by, a 290-pound defensive end.
A big tackle, and I'm not comparing them at all, but I'm trying to think of who you were going with. The big tackle that comes to mind that doesn't have elite length or maybe elite feet in terms of just testing would be Penei Sewell. He'd be another guy.
Right.
So, and he's great. It doesn't matter.
Yes, right. Probably not as a good an athlete as Penei Sewell was that way. But
the build is kind of the same.
It's similar. It is similar. This guy maybe has a little more in the midsection, like you were talking about, and that's probably the weight he could lose there. But yeah, it is similar to that. I don't think he is in the top 5 conversation, and I think that's what's different about this class overall. Where last year we had these guys that were like, oh, these are definite top
Blue
5,
chip.
top 10, right? I feel like the O-line conversation is going to start towards the end of the top 10, if not, past 10, and then we're going to start to see them go off the board.
Here's a weird one for you.
Yeah.
9-inch hands.
It is weird.
That is the first percentile, and for those at home wondering what that means basically there's nobody playing tackle in the NFL with hands this small.
I don't even know what to make of it.
I'm
not going to lie. Like when I looked at all these guys and saw that there was a few of these big guys, not maybe 9, but I was like, holy crap, like this guy's a big guy and my hands like would dwarf his. Like it's not even close. So that's where it was a little shocking.
Does it matter?
I don't know if it does. I can't say that I've really even ever had these conversations with. I would think it has to matter to a degree. I would want somebody with big hands a little bit for the hand fighting and the ability to control people. I would think that helps out. But is it a deal breaker or an end-all, be-all? No. But I can't say that I have a lot of, experience in that conversation there.
All right, so let's get into tier 2.
Yeah.
Because, Wright's in a tier of his own, and you think he could play left tackle if he needs to.
I look at Wright, and I just go 9 to the Bears. I could definitely see happening.
That wouldn't shock me.
No.
And you could argue that Braxton Jones is fine on the left side for them, and they'll plug right in on the right side.
Tackle.
And they feel better about that.
I didn't even really think of that. See, I'm not in mock draft mode yet, so I haven't even thought of stuff like that yet. Well, it starts next week for me.
Yeah.
Well, you're going to figure this out.
I'm jealous you do about 2 weeks
So
of
I haven't
it.
even thought about that. You're right. He did a good job at left tackle last year.
So maybe that's their plan of action.
The right spot. Yeah.
So tier 2, 2 guys in tier 2.
Right.
But tackle number 2, definitely in a different mold than Darnell Wright, is
Broderick Jones from Georgia, who I really like.
Ultra athlete.
I mean, great base. Really has the exact look you want for left tackle. I mean, he's pretty f***ing perfect looking.
Yeah. No bad weight is what I wrote down right away.
Yeah, exactly right.
Yeah.
I mean, it's like broad shoulders. He's got a little waist, and then, whoa, what a great pair of legs and ass he's got, as far as an offensive lineman goes that way. This is a guy that, I honestly did write down. I wrote, got a body and a power look to him that reminded me of a Tristan Wirfs, right? But he's got, I think, maybe more length than Wirfs. I'm not even sure. It's right around that. Okay, it's right around that area there. But 6'5", 311,
he does.
34 3/4, right? Does he have
Wirfs
more
was
length?
34 inches.
He was 34, so he had a little bit more that way. And again, he has a great natural anchor, and again, I'm into that. You're going to be blocking TJ Watts of the world. You got to worry about, hey, oh no, he's about to go around the edge on me. Oh no, he's smashing his head into my chest now, and I got to make sure he doesn't push me back into my quarterback. So he was just a natural in that department, and a natural in that department without really even knowing how to, I think, use his hands and feet the proper way yet.
Chris, I completely agree. So, he throws wide hands all the time.
All the time. Or doesn't even at times punch people to stop the momentum, right? So that would be the other thing. But to me, that's a positive.
Yep.
I don't go like that's an easy thing to learn.
He's a one-year starter.
Right. So it's easy to learn that. Oh, wait, I have to move my feet and then just do that every now and then? Okay. Wait, I'm a high-level athlete. I can do that. He hasn't had to for the most part. And that's where you see some of the negative plays because he'll try to stop people with, like, the headbutt or, like, he lets them get into their body, and then all of a sudden he just tries to hit them with their head and, like, I'll stop you that way. Or he just leans on them a little bit. But, between that, and what was I going to say? The hands, that, right? And even some of the footwork as far as bucket step and all that. He's not real great at any of that yet. But all the tools are there. The athleticism's there. The power's there. He's good in space again. He's twitchy and explosive off the ball, and he has an edge when he plays too.
Sure.
Again, I'm big into that too. I am. We're not here to play patty cake. You're playing defensive linemen in the NFL, and they're assholes. So you better be an asshole back if you want to win some of these battles. And I thought Broderick Jones had a little of that in him that I loved.
Yeah, he had a rep when I watched him last summer, and he only started 4 games in 2021. He blocked somebody into the kicking net on the sidelines, and I was like, that's what you like to see.
Yeah, no doubt.
So,
no doubt.
And then he took over at left tackle this year. You and I see eye to eye on him. I have him as tackle number 2 as well. And that brings me to the next guy, who is my tackle number 1.
Okay.
And for you, that is Paris Johnson Jr. from Ohio State.
Right. I like Paris Johnson Jr.
And there are flaws. I'm not, hiding to that. There are things he needs to clean up, but just the look of him, it screams franchise tackle.
The look, the length.
That's it. Arms down to the ground.
The length, and then he's got more of the feet you like to see than the other 2 guys. His feet are better than the other 2 guys. I want to make that clear here. It is. And so you're saying it right. To me, it's a little bit of what you're seeing here, and if you're watching on our NBC YouTube page here and watching this, he's a little long and linear. Right? It's the power aspect that makes him number 3 for me. This stuff, though, is greasy. I mean, he moves at a high level. He is a high-level athlete. So that's the thing you like about him, all right? And then, he did have a pretty good bucket step in that. His pass pro mechanics, I thought he was a little more advanced than the 2 guys in front of us, really, in a lot of ways, which is I can see, again, why you'd make him your number 1 guy. He knows how to punch to stop and stun the rush. Anchor is pretty good, and Anchor good, too. What I like about him is, like, we talk about the hips again. He's got great hips. That's why he is such a great athlete.
Especially for a guy that's almost, 6'6.5".
Right.
96 percentile arms. Another guy has small hands, very odd, but whatever.
It's the weirdest thing
nine
ever.
and a half, 13th percentile. Chris, my favorite thing about him, I think, and you could say this about the other 2 guys for sure, but especially with him, his ability in the zone running game.
Yeah, okay.
It looks like a tight end running.
Right.
And it's not always perfect. I think sometimes he can lunge. I think he is tall, so he needs to learn how to get under.
Lower.
He does not
get
low.
He's got to move his legs on contact
But
more.
the mentality is there.
Yes.
There is a mentality there that I really, really liked. And I poked around with an offensive line coach asking, which interviews did you like? Which guy you think will really take to coaching and grow? And he was like, it's Paris Johnson. Everybody loves him, and he'll be the most bought in of anybody.
Yeah, that's good to hear.
Yeah.
That really is.
Because there's things he does need to clean up, so that's what you want to hear.
You're right. But again, it's not. It's minor, and it's nitpicky. I wrote towards the end of my thing, there's nothing physically or athletically he can't do in the run game. I wish he played with lower pads, but it's not bad. He's tough, he's physical. Wish he kept legs driving on contact a little bit more, but not bad in that department either. He's just never the low man. That was the last thing I wrote. That's really all it comes down to is just that part. But, you see also the potential, and like we talked about with the guards and the hip roll and all of that, I see it there. And I also actually see it in his anchor at times, right? He's not as, as stout or as, heavy in the center of his body as the other 2 guys. And probably a big reason why I gave them a little bit more of an inkling over him. But, the one thing I did like, you see a few plays too of like, he's getting pushed back and he can get the hip roll and anchor his body and be in a position to where he can halt it and you can go, wow, look at that athlete hyperextended here and stopping, a good pass rusher from Michigan or whoever else. I found that very impressive, let alone, Smart player. Jumped out to me, too.
Yes.
You know, really jumped out to me, and where he was never fooled by a stunt or a blitz. He saw what was coming or the adjustment, and I thought that was very impressive by Paris Johnson Jr. as well.
I like that you brought up his recovery tools are probably unlike anybody's in the draft.
Right.
Because the arms are down to the ground and he's got light feet. And like you said, when he unlocks his hips, that's a perfect player in terms of recovery.
Yeah.
It's all there
Yes.
to absolutely – because here's the thing. You're going to lose the beginning of reps a lot blocking in the NFL. It's what you do in the
100%.
second phase
Exactly right.
that matters so much.
You're going to get fooled every
Yes.
now and then and go, oh, wait, I thought Nick Bosa was going to go speed on me here, and he got me and he pushed me back. And at that point, you just want to go, wait, I don't want to let the play be ruined, so can I, you know, a hop and a half backwards and then stop him to where my quarterback can still shuffle and throw the football. It's a very big, real part of that, you know, position, Connor. Good point by you.
These top 3 tackles, all top 20 picks to you?
Yeah, I think they're right in that range, right? Where it's like, I feel like, you know, yeah, it'd be that 9 to 22 range, 9 to 24, right in that area there, I think is kind of where I would see it. Again, I haven't done mock draft totally yet there, but yeah, I think these are guys that are that 10 to 25 range for sure.
All right, so we move to tier 3. 2 tackles to round out the top 5 in tier 3. Number 4 for you, Chris. Where are you going with this one?
Anton Harrison, right? Oklahoma, big boy here, right? And Anton Harrison, I mean, he again has a look that you like. I mean, there's no doubt about that. When you watch him and you go, okay, whoa, I get it. This is a franchise left tackle. Here he is. You know, 6'4", 315, 34 and an eighth inch arms, right? You know, the thing that, you know, thick girth, good legs like that, long arms, all of that. You know, I wish he had a little bit more of a butt. I will say that. And even looking at his seat, I felt like he was a little knock-kneed. I get into like kind of the build of the body to almost paint a picture for my brain too, so I remember, right? You know, again, I like the athlete. I like the ability to anchor. I like the length. I don't love – I should say I like the straight-ahead athlete. I don't know if I love the overall athlete.
And he ran a great 40.
Ran a great 40.
Like great sub 5 seconds.
He can go forward. Every question I had about him, and I don't have any questions really either or two about like, hey, he can handle speed to power. He's going to be able to anchor and do that, right? It's not perfect or as good as the guys we talked about before, right? But like he does have a deficiency in hip or getting low. He's never low. In fact, I mean, one of the first things I wrote, he barely looks like he can get in his stands at times. Like he can't even get down there in an athletic position. And then I felt like you see that in some of course, the run blocking, right? But then also some of that hipness, and I thought his ability to mirror pass rushers was less than some of the other guys.
I agree.
He could get leaned one way and he can't recover, like to your point of the second phase, right? I felt like there was a lot of that. Or get into like a wrestling match with a guy and get off balance, and he doesn't win it all the time. So that's where he becomes in tier 3 and is not quite, you know, I don't see him quite the way I see those top 3 guys.
Yeah, after watching the pressures he gave up this year, I wrote a large majority were against inside moves where he fails to keep his lower half working as he throws his hands.
Exactly.
Throws his hands, stops his feet, and they counter inside.
Sure.
It's just lateral agility is kind of mediocre.
Yes,
so
it is.
I do think he could be a starting tackle at the
No
NFL
doubt.
level.
Oh,
There's
no
just
doubt.
limitations that you're going to have to work with early on. And I would imagine you have some of those for number 5, who is...
Number 5 is Blake Freeland, which was really a pleasant surprise for me. It really was. And, you know, when I look at Blake Freeland, again, it's not the body I always love here. This is tall and skinny.
Yeah, he's a skyscraper.
Yeah,
this
is a guy that these are the guys I usually look at and go, can he really handle Joey Bosa coming off the edge, speed to power? I don't know about that, right? You know, and the length it's at that borderline area here, you know, as far as this. But I came away going, damn, you know, this guy's got some Taylor Decker to him, right? That kind of player. And really like tall as hell, bigger in the upper body with some thick arms. I don't love his legs, as anybody knows me, right? But the athleticism's undeniable. I mean, you could see that right away. Whether that's straight away, quick feet, whatever. There's twitch to the overall athlete. The run game jumps off right away too. I mean, his ability in the run game is, I think, pretty damn special, right? And I'm talking about more some of the advanced stuff maybe than like Darnell Wright is not going to be as good at getting the second level or pulling on the edge as this guy, right? That's where he was really good. Now, balance, okay, with the tall guy, again, that's just why he's number 5. He's got a little of that like Anton Harrison. If he gets knocked off the edge or whatever, he can lose balance that way, But, like, I was kind of impressed with the anchor as I went on and on. I just went, man, like I was expecting anchor to be bad. So far, pretty good. He's got a good punch. He closes the gap really well because he's such a great athlete that when he knows he's got to go out and kick out to the end, he doesn't let the end get 5 yards or 6 yards of running room to go, I'm going to get the full speed so I can smash you. He closes that gap and stops it. So while they're in the process of building momentum, they get smushed that way. I really love that aspect about him very much. And then like I talked about, the run game, the initial blow and all of that, I thought was really good. The ability to mirror, always has a good base and does know how to bucket step. And I don't know if this guy, I don't think he's probably a first rounder. This is somebody that I wrote down like 35 to 55 kind of range is how I see it. But, yeah, he was a pleasant surprise for me at tackle.
Almost 6 feet 8 inches tall.
I know.
Does the 302 pounds weight concern you at all? Because that's slender at that height.
It is. This is where I needed to see the other things to make myself comfortable with it. And then when I saw the athleticism, I did see the punch and good handwork, the ability to mirror, and then the anchor to go along with it. I went, you know what? I'm comfortable with it. I am, we've seen some guys like this work. I think of like Brian O'Neill.
Yeah,
right.
Yep.
A little similar to that kind of build, maybe not quite that tall. There's a damn right tackle in Indianapolis. Smith, or is that Braden? What the hell is
Braden?
Braden Smith.
Colton Miller is another guy that's this height.
Exactly right. So the tall, linear guys, again, they're not going to do it with pure power. They have to do it a little bit more with athleticism, the right technique, the punches, and all that. And I saw enough of that to feel good. I wish his power and balance were a little bit better at the end. I wrote overall, but he has great size and he's a very good athlete and he knows how to use his hands and his anchor is better than I expected. And that was my last line of Blake Freeland, but damn good football player. I liked him a lot.
So your top 5 offensive tackles, number 1 was Darnell Wright in his own tier. Tier 2 had both Broderick Jones at number 2 and Paris Johnson Jr. at 3. Tier 3 was Anton Harrison at 4 and Blake Freeland at 5. I think the one guy people will wonder about will be Dawand Jones from Ohio State, who played across from Paris Johnson.
Sure.
Very unique in terms of his size, as you see Sims' top 5 here. Did not test well, obviously, at that size, but somebody that probably is bound to be a top 50 to top 60 pick.
I don't doubt that. I don't. I just didn't quite think, I think with him is just was a little too all over the place for everything.
Yeah.
And maybe not quite as dominant as I was expecting, I
thought that in the run game.
I definitely.
Like I was hoping for Mekhi Becton.
I thought I was going to see
Orlando
Trent Brown. I thought I was going to see that.
Yeah, guys that are in that size profile,
not at
6'8",
all.
375.
It was a little of that, a little too much on the ground, a little too off balance and pass protection. There's potential here for this guy. And I like these kind of big right? I didn't love the way this big built, though. I didn't love it. It was a little too... I would like some of the weight to be in the center more, around the thighs, the legs, and I don't mind his stomach. But this was just like, man, it was very thin in the upper thigh area, which scared me a little bit overall. But again, I wouldn't be shocked if we were sitting here 3 years from now and we're going, damn, that Dawand Jones is one of the better tackles in football. I mean, he's got some things that you certainly can like and see where you can build on it.
So we're going to move to the interior offensive line. And I think
I just want one thing.
You got another
Did
one?
you get all your top 5? Did you get all your top 5?
Oh, yeah, I got my top 5.
You,
You and I, this is the most I think we've seen eye to eye on anything.
Okay.
So I had Paris Johnson Jr. at 1, Broderick Jones at 2, Darnell Wright at 3. I think they're all bona fide top 20 picks.
Yeah.
Anton Harrison at 4.
Okay.
I saw a massive step for him from last year to this year.
Right.
He improved, and that gives me a lot of hope for the future. And then I had Dawand Jones at 5. I think that step after Harrison is pretty big for me. I saw a tier fall. Freeland's a guy that I'm interested in. I do wonder how leverage will go for him at that size. And I'm like you, where when I see that height and weight combo, I always wonder how it's going to be.
It's scary.
Yeah, like Stone Forsythe was a guy a couple years ago from Florida. He's like 6'10".
Right,
So you always wonder how that's going to be. We saw the tackles pretty closely, honestly, and that's going to make for a fun.
Just got to get you to see Will Anderson my way, and we'll be friends again.
That's right. So interior offensive line, and you group them guards and centers.
Yeah,
in this
I
one.
did. I did not go all the way and go 5 centers, 5 guards. I just kind of went interior O-line here.
I think this starts off with the fun one because it's the classic great talent. Can he play tackle at the next level?
Right.
You have him in a tier of his own at guard.
Right.
And I think a lot of NFL teams are evaluating this the same way. Number 1 for you.
Yeah, Peter Skoronski from Northwestern, right? To me, and again, he could play left tackle in the NFL.
Sure.
He can, but it's just not ideal. He could be like a multiple all-pro at guard.
Yep.
That's what it looks like. I mean, he could be your Zach Martin, your Joel Bentonio, your Chris Lindstrom down in Atlanta. This is what we're talking about. And then, there's not the great length that way there. His anchor is not bad for a guy that's not, great length and a huge ass in that way. But it's just his run blocking, his drive off the ball, the attitude in which he plays with, the athlete he is. Yes, and I just don't think he's as, it's always weird to say this, when you're going, wait, they're all 6'5", 3 something. He doesn't look as big as the tackles. There's something about the narrowness of the shoulders, the length of the arms, and the butt to where, even though Anton Harrison's 6'4", 315, he looks like a much bigger human when you break him down on film compared to Peter Skoronski. I don't know if you feel that way or not.
I do, and I also think to your
funny,
point,
though, but
a lot of guys, the other tackles, like they shed a lot of weight for the combine.
They're naturally bigger guys.
Exactly. Like Skoronski came in at 313.
And he's working to be 313.
I thought he was playing at like maybe 300 this year.
Right.
Yeah. So I think the tape vision and the written in ink weight that we get are not
Connor.
The same.
No, you're right. The guys, Darnell Wright and Broderick Jones, are watching what they eat to be that weight. And Skoronski's going, I probably should have another shake so I can make sure
peanut
I'm
butter and jelly at
305 or
midnight
310.
every night.
Exactly.
Yes,
right.
Every
There's
night.
a difference of that guy. Probably the best get off of anybody in the whole draft, right? And not only like good get off, but like great job pad level, like you talked about before. Always low, always driving, right? An elite athlete in all areas. I mean, it doesn't matter. Great feet to adjust on the fly. Really can do whatever he wants in that department at a high level. He's a no-brainer type of player. I mean, it's high floor, high ceiling. His power is real. Aggressive hitter. Incredible leg drive on contact. He can play left tackle, but it's not ideal. Arms are not long enough. Not big enough overall, man. He is the perfect guard. Has all the tools to be the perfect guard. Second level, like I talked, ideal, all of that. And his technique, even at tackle, was very good. I mean, it really was. He's in good positions almost all the time. He's a can't-miss prospect, and as I said, he's Zach Martin-ish, Joel Bentonio, whatever, but definitely a top 20 pick.
I'm with you. I wrote master of his craft when it comes to technique. He's perfectly in sync with his base in his hands.
Always. Yes.
And like you said, with leverage. And I wrote he can hold up at tackle. He possesses an enticing all-pro ceiling at guard.
Exactly.
And I just rather have an all-pro at a position than a guy that's okay at tackle. So I ranked him as a guard as well, just like you, and thought he was the best. And you know what? A lot of these guys, like some guys, it comes off as an insult when you're like, oh, he has to play guard. He was a top center recruit, got to Northwestern as an interior offensive lineman.
Right.
Rashawn Slater opts out in the COVID year that nobody on this planet saw coming.
Right.
And they go, we don't have a left tackle. Can you play left
hey,
tackle?
You're awesome. Can you do this?
And
right.
he did for 3 years at a great level.
Right.
And it's okay that he's going to go back to the interior offensive line where he played in high school.
That's exactly right. And he should be happy about that because he's going to make more money at guard position. And, I would be shocked if he's not drafted as a guard and somebody puts him in a guard. As long as there's not an injury or some issue there, I would totally expect to see him. And, again, It's a different human at left tackle. Left tackles are like Neanderthals out of a cave. Like in a world of big men, left tackles are the biggest. And that's where he's a little different. But, man, athletic and powerful and and a little bit of a smaller package for an offensive lineman. Man, this guy's awesome.
Here's one for you.
Yeah.
How early can you take a great guard prospect?
Gosh. Well, like, I'm not opposed in the 4, 5, 6 range.
I thought he was that good.
You think he's up there?
And I don't think he'll go there.
Right.
But I mean, Chris, looking at my board, I had him as the 5th best player in the draft.
Well, I wrote down 5 to 15. Right?
Sure. Okay.
So that's what I wrote down. I wrote top 15, 5 to 15, somewhere in there. I will say, I'm not sure he's not as good as Quentin Nelson was, right, coming out.
I agree.
But it's not too far off. And Quentin was the number 6 pick of the draft? Somewhere in there.
I think he's as good as Elijah Vera Tucker was.
Okay, sure.
Coming out, Navy T went in the top 15.
Sure, yeah, exactly right.
So.
I would be shocked if he's still on the board past 15.
Yeah, me too.
So yeah, I definitely see it that way too, Connor.
So number 2 for you, another converted tackle.
Yeah.
To guard, and I loved this guy. I loved watching this guy play, not just at the Senior Bowl, but what he's been able to do in college for you. Number 2 is
Matthew Bergeron from Syracuse, right?
From Canada, too.
Yes. Exactly right. And this goes back to how you started off the show a little, right? I mean, this is another guy I think can play left tackle. He could. There's some work and some things that got to be fixed. At guard, we can play him tomorrow.
Sure.
He can start for you in the NFL. Let's go. Tackle, all the tools are there for this guy. He can do everything. But, I mean, he just is playing one-on-one basketball out there at tackle. I mean, there's no technique. It to me looks like it'd be a lot of work, and there's some lots of reps that are going to have to be done, for him to get some of these things down in the tackle department. I mean, he's just doing whatever. I mean, he's
getting in the way as much as he can.
He's side running and crossing his feet over as a left tackle against pass rushers. So, yeah, there's some plays there that are underwhelming in that department. But it's not a strength or an athletic issue, or certainly not a tough issue. Sure. I'll put him up there with Skoronski as far as I want to knock your head off in the run game and block you that way. That's where I love the guy. I got a little bit of like a Tyler Smith feel from this kind of guy where, it's Tyler Smith last year. It was, I think it's just a little too raw at tackle. We got to play him at guard and he'll kill people, right? That's the same way I felt with this guy. Really good-looking, proportionate athlete, right? Got good thickness in his legs. Gets off the ball really well. Dude has great feet. I mean, he's a great athlete overall, like we're talking about. Runs well in a straight line. Pulling guard, I mean, where he's pulling tackle. I think that's when I wrote down, he really looks like he'd be better at guard in the NFL. Doesn't have the length, the proper footwork and the anchor to be a left tackle in the NFL. But then we get into the hips conversation again as another guy who can just roll his hips through and get in a position to drive defensive ends and defensive tackles and dominate them in the run game. That's what I really like, right? All his negatives are all technique issues. There's nothing that physically I thought he can't do. And whenever I saw a negative play, I just went, well, he just did a karaoke there and was trying to block a guy from Notre Dame, so that's not going to work.
Some waist bending.
Yeah, right. Just but his overall, he can do this or he can't do that is there's not much I can look at to say he can't do, just other than he needs to fix some major technique issues if you're ever going to keep him a tackle.
So 39 starts at tackle. He played on both sides for Syracuse, and his run blocking film, I would say, is up there with the best in this class.
Right.
Yeah.
It's like guy lines up over in front of him. He can knock his ass back and drive him 5 yards down the field. All the things we talk about in space, whether it's second level, pulling guard, again, screens, all of that. I mean, he's going to thrive in that stuff. I would think, teams that value the more athletic lineman, the athletic guard, right? Maybe a Kyle Shanahan type of guy, that they would like this kind of guy. As compared to a guy we're going to talk about here in a minute, who's just a big, thick, hulking, space-eating kind of guard, right? But yeah, I really liked it, and like you said, I thought the run blocking was off the charts good.
Phenomenal.
Really almost every bit as good as Skoronski in that department.
And you talked about how good he is on the move as a run blocker.
Yeah.
He had a 7.38 3-cone at his pro day. I mean, that's an elite number at his size.
Definitely.
So it all translates to the athletic
those
testing.
Things you're talking about, right?
Another guy like Paris Johnson, when I ask offensive line coaches, who would you want to coach? This guy's name comes up all the time.
I could see that.
They love his demeanor,
Sure.
team captain.
Sure.
It's not a knock on Syracuse, but it just felt like kind of an SEC lineman playing for Syracuse.
Yeah, I hear what you mean. I know what it was. He was down and dirty and nasty and physical and everything. And yeah, I have a hard time thinking that he is not an instant starter at guard for whoever drafts him in the NFL. Now, I wrote second rounder.
I think so.
I think that's somewhere where he is. He's probably somewhere in there 33 to 50 range, somewhere there. But I don't know if we saw a run of linemen go in the first round. Would he go earlier than that? Maybe.
Yeah, I have him as the 47th overall player in this draft.
Okay.
And with the need for linemen, usually curve that up a little bit.
Yeah, right.
I think Bergeron could go in the top 45 picks pretty easily. So we are now in Tier 2. Bergeron kicked off Tier 2. You have two more players in the interior offensive line in Tier 2. Number 3 is our first actual college guard.
Right. O-Cyrus Torrence from Florida, right? And this is big in power, and the teams that want that kind of guy that, he drives off the ball and he can move, Chris Jones, and it's not the prettiest footwork in the world, but damn, he's big and he's strong, and when it comes to pass protection, always keeps a good base and really is immovable in that way. I think Sean Payton likes these type of guards.
I thought he was Larry Warford.
Well, that's a great way. Yeah,
that's exactly what I saw.
Right,
yeah.
He's got that type of body and way about him. So those teams that are, the opposite of like what we just talked about with Skoronski and Bergeron, who are going, wait, I'm not worried about my guard pulling all the time, or his ability to get out there and screens and all that. I want more of a guy that, when I just want to run behind the right guard, he can just move people that. Or if there's a stand up, if Aaron Donald's there, he's athletic enough, not like super athletic, but athletic enough to block him. But more importantly, he can block, Jeffrey Simmons or Christian Wilkins of the world if they're lined up right in front of him, and he can handle a man-to-man with just his pure size and power that way. That's where you like O-Cyrus Torrence. So those are the things that jumped out to me, right off the bat. And I thought for a guard, his pass protection was really pretty phenomenal.
Didn't allow a sack in college.
Okay, I was going to say. I mean, I wrote no one ever. I don't look at this stuff.
Yep.
But I just wrote no one ever beats him really. I mean, he's always in a good position, And if someone does get by him, it's never get pushed back or he whiffed or got dominated. It's like he leaned or just stopped his feet for a half a second, and then the guy kind of got by. But yeah, I mean, from that standpoint, I was, in love with it. And of course, and then he was a good enough athlete still for reach blocks and get to the second level and do all of that. So this is your big, power, stout-looking guard that's a little different than the other two guys we talked about.
I thought it was awesome when you watch him make that transition to the SEC. He's just unfazed by contact. Like, he never, some guys lose their balance or they have to reset. It just doesn't move.
He literally is like wide base and just always in this perfect square position.
He's like an offensive lineman that would be cast in like a movie, almost like ironically for football. That's what he looked like.
Definitely.
Probably our first like real phone booth bully we've talked about.
I think you're probably right about that.
If you're in a phone booth with him, also the funniest, we've had this running thing about hand size, 11 1/4.
Oh, right.
I mean, he'll have some of the biggest hands in the NFL from day one. If they're on you, the rep's pretty much over.
Yeah. You're exactly right. He's like, remember Kenyon Green from last year,
Oh, yeah.
right? It's same body to me. Maybe not quite as good overall athlete, and why he won't go like in the top 20 or 25, but I'm with you and saw it just like you did. And I mean, even at the end, I wrote, Jalen Carter is the only guy that even remotely pushed him back, like remotely. It wasn't like he sacked him and dominated. It was like, whoa, he went back a step or two here. It was like, I haven't seen that yet. Whoa, okay, he does go backwards. But I'm big into that too. I'm big into what do your negatives look like, and I should have explained that. O-line, your negatives should be like stalemate for the most part, right? But then, okay, you're gonna have one bad play every now and then. I get it, but I don't really want it to go past that department as far as stalemate. But yeah, I like the guy, and those big O-line teams, they're gonna like him too.
Yeah, it'll just be interesting to see where he goes. Who wants to be more of a gap team? That's an interesting one. When you look at teams trying to run more power and who is picking high enough to get him, I think he's somebody that could fall to the second round.
I think so,
right?
Probably.
Yeah.
I kind of same range as the guy we just talked about, really. I thought it would be early second, 33 to 50, somewhere in that range.
It's a matter of who wants to get that downhill running game going.
Yep.
I wouldn't even rule out somebody like the Raiders at 38.
Sure, he would be their kind of guy.
Right?
I wouldn't be shocked there.
A bigger
Does Denver
player
have anything at the top
That's
of the
the
second?
team that came to the top of my mind.
Well, he's going to look for big dudes. That's just what he does. But they
Seattle
might not
has
have
Denver's second-round pick, too.
Yeah, right. Well, Seattle could be a team maybe that can even think about that,
they
too.
They do need interior help.
They do.
They do.
So they might be thinking of that, which would make sense. They got their tackle position so sewed up. They can get some interior guys.
O'Cyrus Torrence didn't allow a sack this year, wasn't called for a penalty. Pretty good resume for him. Wrapping up tier number 2 for the interior offensive lineman, we have our first center, Sims.
We got a Schmitzer over here. You want a Schmitzer? Okay. Well, we got John Michael Schmitz, okay? Our center. And, man, I love John Michael Schmitz.
What's not to love with this guy?
What? I really did. First off, he's everything we talked about is for the center position, right? Stout, powerful, twitchy, right? Has a Creed Humphrey type of look, I wrote down. Maybe not quite as thick, but it's close. Thick arms, thick upper thighs. I'm into that. Thick upper thigh, yeah, you need that. Like we were talking about, Fletcher Cox is on your ass in a hurry when you're playing that position. So those thighs better be able to handle that type of power, right? But get off the ball, phenomenal. Movement, phenomenal. I'm paraphrasing it here, but there's no limitations. He's not Tyler Linderbaum, I'm as an athlete overall, but like some of the other guys that you just talked about, or what was the guy the Eagles took last year? Cam Jurgen, Creed Humphrey, like I said, that kind of guy, can make some really tough reach blocks. They asked, again, Minnesota and most Big Ten teams, they asked their O-linemen to do some NFL stuff. So you can really see and let it, translate in your brain a little there. But reach blocks, the power, the pad level, he can dig people out in the run game. His guy never makes the tackle. Again, the negatives. Like the worst thing he does is, again, it's like, it's a stalemate. He didn't dominate the guy there. Okay. So, really nothing but positives to say. I think it's a guy, again, that's somewhere in that same range we talked about the last guys, 33 to 50, somewhere in there.
I think so, too. And we kicked off this conversation when we talked about what to look for in centers. He fit the identity of a center in every single way to me.
Right.
He gets under the opponent's skin.
Yep.
He's got snarl.
Yeah,
he's got
he
bark.
does.
He's almost obnoxious, and you just love it. And he carried that over to the Senior Bowl in one-on-ones, attitude, demeanor. You could see him calling out protections pre-snap on tape all the time.
Yeah.
He's a 3-year starter. I thought he got better every single year. I agree with you that you love the burly build that he carries. Looked like he shed some weight to test. I think he's a bigger center when he's actually playing. And just a max effort guy. Like every rep is the same amount of effort.
To the whistle.
To the whistle every
balls
time.
To the wall, pedal to the metal.
Yep, we'll throw an extra elbow or shove in there. And he knows how to get away with it.
Definitely.
I thought day one starter at center at a pretty, at least middle of the pack NFL level with a lot of room to grow. He's a good player.
I don't disagree. To me, he was a little bit of in a class of his own at the center position.
I had him as the number one center by a wide margin.
Okay, good. I like the kid from Ohio State.
Me too.
He's Whippler, who went to St. Joe's up here in Jersey, so I knew about him a little bit. He would have been my second. The other guy, Tippmann, right? Yeah, I like some of the stuff about him. I see, like, I was looking this morning and saw some mock drafts where people had him, like, in the mid-second and stuff like that, and that was just a little too high for me. I thought those two – I think this guy's in a class of his own. Whipple is in his own tier, and then Tippmann with 3. Tippmann was just a little too straight-liner, off-balance,
He's
stiff.
gigantic.
Right.
There's just not a lot of centers.
6'6",
yeah,
right?
there's just not a lot of centers in the
6'6",
NFL
and
like
I
that.
thought even low cut. Okay, another thing in the center – I do like a high-cut center.
Okay.
Right? Because I don't want, as a quarterback, to sit on my heels to get the snap. So if they got a little bit of a high cut, they're in a better position for the quarterback snapping at least, and that's just me, selfish quarterback talk there.
Yeah, but it matters what
It
your
does
quarterback
matter.
thinks of the position.
Definitely,
so
definitely.
I had Schmitz at 26th overall, and then I didn't have a center. I had Whippler at 61.
Okay, so you have a huge gap there.
Big gap there.
Right.
Tippmann at 63. And then it depends what you think of some guys if they're going to play center or guard like Avila from TCU. But
Yeah, sure.
So so let's round out your interior offensive lineman. Now we move to a new tier. So this is tier 3.
Yep.
And tier 3 is our classic longtime college tackle. Really interesting background. This guy was actually a quarterback tight end in high school and took some time to put on some weight at the college level before being a 3-year starter at tackle. And now you think he will move to guard, and that is North Dakota State's Cody Mauch.
That's right. Cody Mauch, tall, linear, not real broad shoulders.
No
just
front teeth.
No, no real thickness in the leg that way or whatever. It's not that kind of look as far as the big hulking left tackle or whatever else. That's interesting, the history there. I did not know all that. That's like the Lane Johnson history there, quarterback tight end type of stuff. But, athletic look here again. This is what we're thinking in. This is teams that like him. And, man, I just after a few plays was kind of blown away by the guy. I wrote right away. I was like, oh, this guy's not a tackle in the NFL. He's a guard. He's just not big enough or long enough or big enough human being overall. But, super athlete like we've talked about. The drive, the get off the ball, the pad level, I was all very impressed with that. Again, the in-space stuff, very good there. What the dual blocks, it's double team a guy. I got to get to the second level. Plays hard, has a a toughness about him and a chippiness that I really like. His feet are really good in pass pro. His ability to mirror is top notch, right? I just don't think he can anchor in the NFL. He's not ready for that, but I think he's a high-level run-blocking guard in the NFL. And I think he's also a high-level, awesome pass-protecting guard. I wrote Joe Tooney. That's who he reminded me a little bit.
It's a lot of praise.
I know. That's high praise. Exactly right. So we'll see where it goes. Now, it's North Dakota State, and you don't get to see him necessarily. What was their one division? What was the game I watched? Arizona?
They played Arizona, I think, the first
right?
week of the season.
Right. So that was
and even then, you're like, okay.
Well, it's Arizona, right? You're like, is there a worse team in
He
Division
wrecked a
I
couple
football?
guys on Arizona.
He was certainly he was really damn good. He's not outclassed by any Division I. Yeah, obviously. I think this guy could be a starting guard in the NFL. And I think, I don't know where you are or on him or whatever. Maybe North Dakota State, they know how to compared to a lot of these 1AA guys, North Dakota State, I trust their O-linemen. I do. They know how to teach the run game there. They're usually taught like pros. You see a lot of them playing in the NFL everywhere. So I guess maybe that's influenced me a little bit. But, I got him mid to late second. That's kind of how I
think that's where
down.
he's going to go.
You think so?
I think if you're a zone team, you fall in love with the guy.
Right, that's right. He's that kind of guy.
The agility is pretty rare.
Right.
The 3-cone was phenomenal. You see it on tape all the time. When he gets out in space, it's a war every time, and he's usually the first one to his spot.
Cole Strange-ish from last year, right? It's that kind of guy.
I thought he was much better than the guy they had a couple years ago in Dylan Radins.
Yeah, right.
Who played tackle for them.
Sure.
He's on Tennessee now.
Right.
I think with Mauch, my biggest question was the same as you, that we just don't know yet.
Yeah.
How will the step up in power be handled?
Yeah.
Like you said, when you have Jeffrey Simmons or Chris Jones in your face, how do you handle that?
Right.
But his ability in the run game is exciting. I thought he generated power from his hips.
Yeah. He got all the things we talked about.
The calling card's the agility.
Yeah.
Just there's not a lot of offensive linemen that move the way he does and don't compensate with an awful anchor or anything like that.
Right.
I mean, he's a rock solid player.
Yeah. Guard all the way, right?
Guard all the way.
Yeah.
I mean, there's just no track record of a guy like that translating to tackle. His arms are 32 3/8, fifth percentile. He's 302 pounds at the combine. He's probably played at 290.
Yeah, exactly right.
Yep. It's just he's built more like a guard. He plays like a guard, and there's nothing wrong with that. So, interior offensive lineman, you had it. Skoronski in his own tier.
Right.
I mean, no doubt about that. Talk about a stud. Tier 2, 3 guys. Matthew Bergeron, who will most likely be moving to guard at the next level. O-Cyrus Torrence, who has played a lot of guard the college level. John Michael Schmitz, the longtime starting center for Minnesota. And then tier 3 to round out the top 5 was Cody Mauch from North Dakota State. Was there anybody in the interior offensive lineman that you were a little bummed you couldn't get in here, or did you see this as pretty clear-cut top 5?
You know, I mean, listen, I like I think the guy that maybe was the closest to me would have been the Tyler Steen kid.
Sure.
Right?
I think he's a guard at the next level.
Exactly
right.
right.
I ranked him as one.
Yeah, that's what I meant.
Yep.
And sorry if I didn't hear you all the way through there. But he would be the one
good.
I looked at to go, oh, yeah, I don't like him at tackle,
Yep.
but he was in my short list of guys in the running of the top 5 at guard for sure. So there, you hit on Dawand Jones as being the guy that I was certainly a little bit like, not sure what to do with him there. I do like him, and there's some potential. I think that was probably the ones that jumped out to me. After that, I thought there was a little bit of a drop-off to where we got into, mid-round guys and we're out of the top 65, 70 picks of the draft conversation, and we're into a whole nother tier of guys, overall.
Overall, did you like this class of interior offensive linemen? Did you see a good, amount of depth of starters, or at least upside? I mean, obviously Skoronski's the blue chipper.
I thought I saw
after that.
That's where I think I was a little disappointed. I thought I was going to see some more high-level guys, maybe. But a lot of guys where I went, man, there's a lot of traits here to like. This guy, he could be a starter in a few years. It might take 2 or 3 years. You got to work on this, whatever. But that's where I was impressed. It's funny. I kind of feel that way as I'm going through the draft more and more. I feel like every position, like there's just not as much high-end talent, I guess, as I thought maybe there would be, and just not as many slam dunk prospects as I've seen in years past or has felt comfortable about. There's a lot of projection, or I like this one area a lot, but damn, I don't like this area, and that bothers me. I kind of had that feel, Connor.
I was with you. I thought technique was kind of lacking for the most part.
Everywhere.
Like when you're talking about the level of technique, it's hard to start a guy like that, and that's the concern.
It's hard to evaluate.
It's very hard to evaluate.
And yes, and then see, that's where for our job it becomes hard, because to like what you said. And I was going to piggyback off it with your comments about, I think it was Bergeron
and Paris Johnson.
Yeah. This is where knowing the human is going to have to come in a big way to go, wait, is this guy like the game? Is he going to work at it? Yeah, he's got an issue with his first step every time he pulls that guard, but, is he a guy that we think can fix that? And then you feel comfortable about it. But, yeah, this is the problem with college football right now. I mean, it's a numbered few teams where you go, wait, they actually coach the O-line to do NFL O-line
real
things. Real pass sets, real run sets, wait, let's make a call at the line of scrimmage instead of we just all going to zone block to the right. And no, we're going to actually switch things up here. And now, hey, we're going to double this guy and you're going to go up to the second level, where before I was going to double him and, you were going to go up to the second level. Now it's changed. That's where the game is definitely lacking in college football right now.
I think so too, and it's a tough part for these teams to evaluate these guys, and it makes a transition period where you don't have that grace. I mean, you're on a field against Von Miller, Aaron Donald, Chris Jones, Quinton Williams, Dexter Lawrence.
Exactly.
And that's the tough part for this team. So we surprisingly saw eye to eye for a lot of this class outside of a few spots. I ranked tackles.
Your Steve Avila would have been another guy that I was sort of mentioned in my.
Love the floor.
Yeah.
Don't see like
huge ceiling.
All pro ceiling.
Right.
Just think team captain, great leader, Iron Man for a team that went to the
version
Natty.
of O-Cyrus Torrence.
Exactly. Another burly kind of guard. I think he's a guard, not a center. He started at both. This year he played guard. But yeah, I mean, I thought Skoronski was in his own tier. Really like Torrence. Really like Bergeron. I actually liked the guard class. I mean, Mauch was right on the outside looking in for me.
Yeah.
Anthony Bradford from LSU was a guy. Throwback power.
Right.
He's got a ways to go in pass pro, but
no doubt.
throwback
but
mauler.
He's going to be able to kill some people in the run game.
It goes back to our Torrence conversation, like what kind of team are you?
Yes, right.
And if you just want somebody to get out of the gate and go north to south, that's what he fits. I was impressed with Steen. I was a little late on him. When I saw him, I was on the field during the Senior Bowl and saw him, and I was like, oh, this guy will project well to the inside at the next level. I think he's got it.
Great guard body,
Yep.
right? I mean, it's a borderline, like, pretty solid tackle body, actually.
Sure, yeah.
Right?
But it's just a matter of you think his weaknesses can be maybe limited when you kick him inside.
Definitely,
so,
yes.
A solid class, and the centers as well. JMS just in a tier of his own.
Oh, I would agree with that. That was one where I got done watching him, I went, wait, does anybody got this guy going in the late first round, right? And again, I haven't seen the whole draft yet here, so I still got another position or two here to go with to get maybe a better feel. But I had those type of thoughts with Schmitz at first. I was going, man, maybe this is the end of the first round type of pick.
I'll tell you the one I love.
Yeah.
If a wide receiver or corner doesn't fall their way, the Giants at 25.
No doubt.
They don't have a center.
No, they don't.
So I look at them and go, I have no problem taking John Michael Schmitz at 25.
Yeah.
Maybe you move back a couple of spots if somebody wants Bijan Robinson there, if he's still there, or a player like that, Jahmyr Gibbs.
You're in the NFC East, and you got Daron Payne and Jonathan Allen in the Eagles D-line. You better have some good interior O-linemen, that's for sure.
Absolutely. So with that wraps up.
We did it, man.
We did.
The big uglies.
The big uglies are done. Some people... it's not the most exciting content to some people.
It's
and
actually the hardest study.
That's why, by far.
It's the hardest
It takes the longest.
Exactly. I told my wife that over the last, 10 days. She's just like, she's seen me walk out of my little office room where I watch my film. And like, what's the matter? I was just like, it's O-lineman. I mean, it's just
the same way.
It's work. You gotta really watch. It's a lot to watch. And as you're talking about with college football, there's so many plays. You can watch a game of a guard and go, is there ever going to be a real play here? Or are they all just going to step to the left, step to the left, and you're like, wow, this is 30 plays in the game, and I really haven't seen anything useful for my evaluation. Let me go to another game. Or, okay, let me just go to the run plays in this game, at least so I can see him do that. I mean, that's where O-line can become very annoying.
It is a grind to find the real plays that matter.
Yeah, exactly.
Nobody does the agilities at the combine anymore.
No, I
so
know.
You're Googling pro day information.
Well, they're scared. They're scared to do the agility because it's all going to get used against them. I feel like the majority of the O-linemen.
Absolutely.
So it's almost like the Orlando Brown effect. Remember that? He ran the 40 and fell out of the first round. It was the worst advice an agent ever gave a guy. he was a franchise left tackle and going to go to the first round, ran a 5.4 40 or whatever it was.
5.68, Chris.
5.68.
That is in the first percentile.
And everyone went, well, oh gosh, he can't play tackle. And here he is, $64 million later, shoving it up everybody's ass.
I think he has the worst short shuttle in O-line history. It's 0 percentile. But it worked out for Orlando Brown, so good for you.
What were they thinking telling him to work out? What were they thinking? He is like the ultimate, just turn on the film. Nobody ever got around him.
If you don't like me, that's fine, but somebody will.
Right.
And that combine really did it.
That's
so,
right.
this is a solid group. I mean, there's going to be a run in this draft across the board. The tackles will go early.
Right.
They always do.
Yep.
Everybody will stare each other down for the guards, besides Skoronski, because he's just got to go.
Yes, right.
The real thing is going to be when those centers get their names called. How long will that take? Because there's that group of 3 that I think will be top 60 picks.
Yeah, I would. You're probably right. You're right. I don't think Tipman is his top 60 pick, but
Wouldn't
people
be
get
for me.
scared, and they'll probably end up going somewhere, in that range. But hey, Connor, as always, you're the man.
Awesome.
Way to lock it down.
Absolutely.
Way to not embarrass me with all your knowledge on this subject. Okay,
Stop.
You're deep into it. We had a great conversation. You know where to find me. All right. I don't think I'm going to get as much hate from this podcast as I did from my last one.
It's a little more chalk.
My
this one.
a little
there's
more
nothing
chalk.
wrong with that.
Right. I'm not afraid to go chalk.
No.
I just do what the film tells me. I had a few people text me the last few days like, are you always trying to be a provocateur? And I was like, you. I just watch what the film says. Off, don't text me again, okay? That's what I said.
Nice try. Lose my number. Shout out Aaron Rodgers.
Yeah, exactly right.
Yes.
Lose my number. All right, everybody. Subscribe, rate, review. Monday, Ahmed's back in the fold. He's going to be ranking big butts. You know why? Because we're going to be looking at big butts on Monday. It's the defensive tackle rankings. You know where to find us. Be good. Everybody enjoy the rest of your week. Be safe on the weekend. Connor, you the man. Clap it up. Yo, 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 thanks for watching, homies. It's the off season, but you know there's no off season for us here at Unbuttoned. Me, Ahmed Fareed, we're going to hit all the stories. So hit subscribe for us, okay? We got a ton coming up. My draft prospect rankings, my Sims top 40 quarterback countdown, and videos of me and NFL QBs playing catch and talking about their development and mechanics. Again, thanks for watching. Remember to subscribe. Peace out, homies. See you soon.